Hi viewers! What if I told you that an ordinary-looking coin, a coin that many people have ignored for decades, could secretly be worth a fortune? Not just a few $100s, not even a few thousand, but possibly life-changing money. Yes, today we are talking about the 1955 Franklin half-dollar, a coin surrounded by whispers, rumors, and shocking claims that have stunned collectors around the world. Some say certain examples are worth hundreds. Some say thousands. And then there are those jaw-dropping claims that a rare version of this coin could be worth an astonishing amount. But is that really true? Or is it just another coin-collecting myth that keeps spreading year after year? Because here's the strange thing. Most people who own this coin have no idea what they're holding. It might be sitting quietly inside an old coin jar, hidden in a forgotten drawer, or passed down from a relative, without anyone realizing its true potential. And that's exactly why collectors get excited whenever a 1955 Franklin half-dollar appears. Because sometimes, just sometimes, an ordinary coin is not ordinary at all. Some examples look completely normal, but under the right light, or through careful inspection, they reveal secrets that can dramatically change their value. Tiny details, small marks, subtle variations. The kind of things most people would never notice. And yet, those tiny details can turn a simple 50-cent coin into something collectors compete fiercely to own. But here's where the mystery deepens. Over the years, stories have circulated in collector communities about unusually valuable 1955 Franklin half-dollars. Coins that sold for shocking prices. Coins that surprised even experienced dealers. Coins that made people stop and ask, "Wait, how can that coin be worth so much?" Some collectors believe certain rare examples could reach incredible levels of value under the right circumstances. Others say those claims are exaggerated, misunderstood, or completely false. So who is right? Is the 1955 Franklin half-dollar truly hiding extreme value? Or are people chasing a dream that doesn't exist? Today, we are going to uncover the truth. But be warned. This journey is full of surprises, because this coin is not just a piece of silver. It's a piece of history, a collector's puzzle, and for some, a potential treasure. And here's what makes this even more exciting. The real value of this coin is not always obvious. Two coins that look nearly identical can have completely different prices. One may be worth only a small amount, while another, almost the same, could be worth dramatically more. Why? Yes, by the end of this video, you will know exactly what this coin is truly worth. And trust me, the answer may surprise you. Because some people who thought their coin was ordinary later discovered something they never expected. So if you own one, or think you might, or if you simply love coin mysteries, you need to watch until the very end. Because the final truth about the value of the 1955 Franklin half-dollar is not what most people think. And when you learn what really determines its price, you may want to check your own coins immediately. So don't go anywhere, because next, we travel back in time to discover how this famous coin was born and why it was created in the first place. Before moving forward, I just want to request that I have collected this data from several forums, so there may be chance of uncertainty at some points. To truly understand the 1955 Franklin half-dollar, we need to travel back in time. Not just to the year it was minted, but to the moment America decided to honor one of its most brilliant minds. A man who was not a president, not a general, not a king, yet one of the most influential figures in American history. Benjamin Franklin. He was a scientist, inventor, writer, diplomat, and one of the key architects of the United States itself. Franklin helped shape a nation. And for decades after his death, Americans wanted a special way to honor his legacy. But here's something surprising. For a long time, no regular U.S. coin featured his portrait. That changed in the mid-20th century. A nation chooses a new symbol. After World War II, America was entering a new era. The country wanted to celebrate its history, its values, and the individuals who built its foundation. So in 1948, something important happened. the United States Mint introduced a brand new design for the half-dollar coin. For the first time ever, Benjamin Franklin would appear on a circulating U.S. half-dollar. But the decision wasn't random. There was deep symbolism behind it. Franklin represented wisdom, innovation, independence, and practical intelligence, qualities America admired. And there was another interesting reason, too. President Harry S. Truman greatly respected Franklin and supported honoring him on U.S. currency. So the Franklin half-dollar was born. The artist behind the coin. Creating a coin is not simple. It requires precision, artistry, and deep historical understanding. The man chosen to design this new coin was John R. Sinnock, the chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. He carefully sculpted Franklin's portrait, calm, thoughtful, and dignified. Sinnock wanted the coin to feel timeless, strong, but simple, respectful, but not overly decorative. He created a design that collectors still admire today. But the reverse side of the coin was just as meaningful. The powerful symbol on the reverse. Instead of an eagle or a shield, the coin featured something deeply connected to American independence. The legendary Liberty Bell. This bell had become one of the most powerful symbols of freedom in American history. Its famous crack made it instantly recognizable. And its message, liberty, freedom, independence, perfectly matched the spirit of Benjamin Franklin. But there's an interesting twist. Some people originally objected to putting the Liberty Bell on a coin. Why? Because by law, half-dollars traditionally included an eagle. So what did the designers do? They added a small eagle beside the bell, just enough to satisfy the legal requirement. A clever compromise. The era of the Franklin half-dollar. The Franklin half-dollar was minted from 1948 to 1963. That means your 1955 coin comes from the middle of its production period, a time when America was growing rapidly after the war. These coins circulated during a fascinating era. The rise of television, the space race beginning, economic expansion, and major cultural change. People used these coins in everyday life. They bought groceries with them, paid bills, saved them, spent them, never imagining that decades later, collectors would examine them under magnification, searching for tiny details worth fortunes. Why 1955 matters. By 1955, the Franklin half-dollar was already well established. Millions had been produced over the years. Yet every year of minting carries its own story, its own production characteristics, its own rare possibilities. And 1955 is no exception. Because while many were made, not all were made the same. Some were struck more sharply, some handled more carefully, some developed unusual features. And that is where history slowly turns into mystery. Because once you understand how and why these coins were produced, you begin to see something important. No two coins share the exact same journey through time. And that journey affects value. Sometimes dramatically. The past shapes the price. This coin is not just metal. It is a surviving witness to a different America. A piece of silver that passed through real hands, real pockets, real history. And every year that passes, fewer remain in pristine condition. Fewer remain untouched. Fewer remain undiscovered. Which raises an important question. If history gives a coin meaning, what gives it collector value? Is it beauty, rarity, condition, minting mistakes, or something even more surprising? That's exactly what we explore next. Because to understand why some 1955 Franklin half-dollars are worth far more than others, you must look closely at the details you can actually see. Every line, every symbol, every feature. So next, we examine the coin itself and uncover the hidden meaning behind its design. Now that we know the history behind the 1955 Franklin half-dollar, it's time to do something collectors love most. Look closely, because every detail on this coin was placed with purpose. Every line, every symbol, every word, tells a story. And once you truly understand the design, you'll never look at this coin the same way again. On the front of the coin, we see the calm, thoughtful portrait of Benjamin Franklin. Unlike many coins that show military leaders or presidents in dramatic poses, Franklin appears composed and reflective. His expression is not heroic, not aggressive, but intellectual. It reflects wisdom, reason, and deep thought, exactly how history remembers him. Look closely at the fine details. Heavy checkmark the flowing hair tied behind his head. Heavy checkmark the realistic shape of his face. Heavy checkmark the smooth, dignified profile. Heavy checkmark the carefully sculpted clothing folds. These details were designed to make the portrait feel lifelike, not symbolic, but human. Above his head, you'll see the word liberty, a powerful national ideal, placed above the thinker who helped define freedom itself. Below his portrait appears the famous phrase, "In God we trust," a motto that reflects the spiritual identity of the nation during that time. And to the right of Franklin's shoulder, the date, 1955. Simple, but incredibly important, because that single number connects the coin to a specific moment in history and a specific place in the collecting world. Turn the coin over, and you see something instantly recognizable. The legendary Liberty Bell. This is not just decoration. It is one of the strongest symbols of American independence. The bell famously rang to mark historic events tied to freedom, and its crack, shown clearly on the coin, makes it unique. Instead of hiding the flaw, the designers celebrated it, because the crack represents endurance. Even imperfect, freedom still stands. Look around the bell and you'll find several important inscriptions. Heavy check mark United States of America. Heavy check mark $50. Heavy check mark E pluribus unum, meaning out of many, one. Each phrase reinforces unity, identity, and national pride. Now look carefully to the right of the Liberty Bell. You'll see a small eagle. It's not large or dominant. In fact, many people barely notice it. But this tiny eagle solved a legal requirement. U.S. law required $50 to include an eagle somewhere in the design. So designers added a small one, just enough to follow the rule. A quiet but clever solution. Now we reach something extremely important for collectors. And this is where design becomes value. Look at the bottom of the Liberty Bell. You'll see a set of horizontal lines. These lines represent the wooden planks supporting the bell. Collectors call them bell lines, and their clarity, sharpness, and completeness can dramatically affect how much the coin is worth. Coins with fully visible, sharply defined bell lines are rare. Very rare. And when a 1955 Franklin $50 has perfectly defined bell lines, its value can rise significantly, sometimes dramatically. This is one of the most important design features collectors examine under magnification. A small design detail, with enormous financial impact. The overall design of this coin is not crowded, not flashy, not overly complex. Instead, it reflects balance. A thoughtful leader on one side, a symbol of freedom on the other. Mind and liberty, ideas and independence, wisdom and unity. It's a quiet but powerful message, preserved in silver. At first glance, every 1955 Franklin $50 looks similar. But when examined closely, differences appear. Sharpness of strike, surface quality, bell line clarity, minting precision. These tiny design variations separate common coins from highly collectible ones. And this is where the real mystery of value begins. Because some design features are normal, while others are rare, and a few are extremely rare. Which leads us to the part collectors find most exciting. The unexpected, the unusual, the mistakes. Yes. Next, we reveal the rare errors, hidden variations, and real prices collectors pay. Because this is where ordinary coins can become extraordinary, and where rumors of massive value begin to make sense. Now we reach the moment many collectors wait for. The part where an ordinary coin can suddenly become extraordinary. Because the truth is simple. Most 1955 Franklin $50 are not extremely rare. But some are dramatically different. And those differences can mean serious money. Sometimes hundreds of dollars. Sometimes thousands. And in rare cases, far more than anyone expected. So let's break this down carefully. Because value depends on several powerful factors. And once you understand them, you'll understand why prices vary so widely. Every 1955 Franklin half-dollar contains 90% silver. That means even the most worn example still has intrinsic metal value. This is called melt value, depending on the current silver market price. Heavy checkmark typical melt value range, $7 to $15. So no matter what, your coin already has a baseline value. But collectors don't stop at silver. They care about condition. And condition changes everything. Coins that were heavily used in daily transactions show wear. Collectors call these circulated coins. Typical market values. Heavy checkmark heavily worn condition, $10 to $18. Heavy checkmark lightly worn condition, $18 to $30. Now we move into a completely different world. Coins that were never used in circulation. These are called uncirculated coins. They still show original mint luster and sharp details. Typical ranges. Heavy checkmark basic uncirculated, $35 to $80. Heavy checkmark high-grade uncirculated, $100 to $250. But this is still not where the biggest value lives. That comes from something very specific. Remember the horizontal lines under the Liberty Bell? Collectors call them full bell lines. If those lines are complete, sharp, and unbroken, the coin becomes far more desirable. Why? Because perfect strikes were difficult to produce, and fewer coins survived with fully defined lines. Now look at how values change. Heavy checkmark average uncirculated, no FBL, $40 to $150. Heavy checkmark full bell lines, MS63, MS64, $250 to $800. Heavy checkmark full bell lines, MS65 and higher, $1,000 to $4,000 plus. Yes. The same coin type, but one small detail, can multiply value many times. And now we reach the most exciting part of all. Mint errors happen during production. They are accidental, unpredictable, and often extremely collectible. Here are the most valuable types collectors search for. Let's see double die errors. Design details appear slightly duplicated due to misalignment during striking. Let's see possible value range. Heavy checkmark minor doubling, $100 to $300. Heavy checkmark strong visible doubling, $500 to $2,000 plus. Off-center strikes. The design is not centered on the coin. Part of the image may be missing. Possible values. Heavy checkmark small offset, $100 to $400. Heavy checkmark large dramatic offset, $500 to $3,000 plus. Raised lines or unusual metal flow caused by damaged dies. Values vary widely. Heavy checkmark minor cracks, $50 to $200. Heavy checkmark major dramatic breaks, $300 to $1,500 plus. A portion of the coin is physically missing due to improper metal cutting. Possible value. Heavy checkmark $200 to $1,000 plus depending on severity. Some 1955 Franklin half-dollars were specially struck for collectors. These are called proof coins. They have mirror-like surfaces and sharp details. Typical proof values. Heavy checkmark standard proof, $60 to $200. Heavy checkmark high-grade proof, $300 to $1,500 plus. Heavy checkmark cameo or deep cameo proof, $2,000 to $6,000 plus. And yes, some exceptional proof coins have sold for astonishing prices. In top condition, with perfect strike, full bell lines, and flawless surfaces. Certain 1955 Franklin half-dollars have sold for heavy checkmark $5,000, heavy checkmark $8,000, heavy checkmark even over $10,000 in elite collector markets. These are extremely rare examples, but they exist, and that is why collectors carefully examine every coin, because sometimes a coin that looks ordinary is actually extraordinary. Let's bring everything together. Heavy checkmark melt value, $7 to $15. Heavy checkmark circulated coin, $10 to $30. Heavy checkmark uncirculated, $35 to $250. Heavy checkmark full bell lines, $250 to $4,000 plus. Heavy checkmark error coins, $100 to $3,000 plus. Heavy checkmark proof coins, $60 to $6,000 plus. Heavy checkmark elite top examples, $5,000 to $10,000 plus. That's a huge range, and it explains why people get excited. But now comes the biggest question of all. If coins can sell for thousands, where did the million-dollar rumors come from? Are they possible? Are they exaggerated? Or is there something collectors aren't telling everyone? That is exactly what we uncover next. Because the truth behind those massive value claims may shock you. Now we arrive at the moment everyone has been waiting for. The big question. Can a 1955 Franklin half-dollar really be worth $1 million? Or is that just a story that keeps spreading, growing, and becoming more dramatic every year? Let's uncover the truth. Slowly, carefully, and honestly. Coin collecting is full of incredible stories. And sometimes, those stories are true. For example, certain rare U.S. coins have sold for astonishing prices. Coins like the legendary 1933 Double Eagle have sold for millions of dollars at auction. When collectors hear about sales like that, something happens. People begin to wonder, what if my coin is the next one? And that's where the excitement begins. Over time, stories start spreading online, in collector groups, at coin shows. Someone hears about a rare high-grade sale. Someone else misunderstands a price. Someone exaggerates a rumor. And suddenly, a coin that sells for thousands is being talked about as if it could sell for millions. This happens more often than you might think. Let's be very clear. Some 1955 Franklin half-dollars are valuable. Very valuable. Especially when they have heavy checkmark perfect preservation, heavy checkmark full bell lines, heavy checkmark exceptional strike, heavy checkmark proof quality surfaces, heavy checkmark rare mint errors, heavy checkmark professional grading at the highest levels. In those rare situations, they can sell for several $1,000s, sometimes even over $10,000 in elite collector markets. That is impressive. That is real. That is documented. But now we must face the key question. Has a 1955 Franklin half-dollar ever sold for $1 million? No confirmed public sale has ever reached $1 million. Not at auction. Not in private verified transactions. Not in professional grading records. There is no documented evidence of a 1955 Franklin half-dollar selling anywhere near that level. So where does the million-dollar talk come from? Possibility, imagination, and misunderstanding. Even though it hasn't happened, some collectors still believe extreme values could be possible in theory. Why? Because coin markets can behave in surprising ways. If a coin were discovered with heavy checkmark, a completely unique mint error never seen before, heavy checkmark absolute perfect preservation beyond known examples, heavy checkmark extraordinary historical significance, heavy checkmark extreme collector demand at the same moment, then, in theory, a price far beyond current records could happen. But here is the key word. Theoretical. Possible does not mean probable, and probable does not mean realistic. Professional numismatists, the serious coin experts, agree on something important. The 1955 Franklin half-dollar is collectible, desirable, and historically meaningful. But it is not among the ultra-rare coins that dominate million-dollar auctions. Coins that reach those extreme prices usually have heavy checkmark extremely tiny surviving populations, heavy checkmark unique legal or historical stories, heavy checkmark gold composition or special circumstances, heavy checkmark global collector competition. The Franklin half-dollar, while loved by collectors, was produced in significant numbers. That limits how high its value can realistically climb. Now here's something important. Just because it's not a $1,000,000 coin does not mean it isn't valuable. Finding a coin worth thousands of dollars is still remarkable. Imagine discovering heavy checkmark a $3,000 coin in a small collection. Heavy checkmark a rare proof worth $5,000. Heavy checkmark a full bell-line specimen worth several thousand. That's still extraordinary. And it happens. Collectors have made amazing discoveries simply by examining coins carefully. $1,000,000 rumors create excitement. But real value comes from rarity, condition, and collector demand, not hype. And the real worth of a 1955 Franklin half-dollar, while sometimes impressive, lies in the thousands, not millions. At least for now. Markets change. Discoveries happen. Records are broken. And in the world of rare coins, the unexpected is always possible. Which means one thing: every coin still deserves careful attention. Because even if it's not worth millions, its true value might still surprise you.